welcome back to Journey with Jen, where we talk about all things natural horsemanship. Tonight, it is a winter night, and I'm working with Gunner in the arena, and I've done a couple of things to help to keep him warm at night because it's winter and it's snowing off and on. We're up here in northern Idaho, and so recently he's gotten a trace clip, which is a body clip that removes the hair from the parts of the body of the horse that sweat the most or sweat first. And by doing this, he doesn't stay wet at night. I can get him dry. The other thing I wanted to show you all tonight is how I get my horse dry in the winter time. That can be really tricky because when you work with them and they sweat, they can get a damp chill if you don't get them dry, but it's a really hard thing to get them dry if they have a winter coat. So I've done a trace clip on Gunner. It's almost done. I've worked on it a couple of times, and I'm just doing it a little bit at a time because he's not used to clippers. But he has a trace clip. It's a low trace clip, and so I'll post a little picture of that so that you can see what a trace clip is as well. And then the next thing that I did for him tonight was using some cornstarch powder to dry him. So I work that into his coat all the way down to the skin. Down to the skin is key, and that way you're getting it all the way in and then getting it all the way out with your brushes. It goes in, it grabs the moisture, it absorbs it, and then you brush out the powder.
By alternating the use of your curry comb in your hand, you can sense how dry or damp your horse is. In this close-up, you can see how the powder visually changes texture as it absorbs moisture. If you have a beautiful Christmas manicure, this procedure is guaranteed to wreck it. While it's true your horse is going to look like a big powdered donut, he might even give you some funny looks, this works.
It makes a huge mess, but your horse is worth it, and so this is why I want to share this little tip with you all about using cornstarch. You don't want your horse to breathe it. That's another thing, so keep it away from their nose, and be aware of the airflow in your barn or your cross ties or wherever you're working on your horse so that you are not giving your horse COPD, which is a lung problem from really fine particles. Your horse also may get a little spooky if they're not used to this, so please go slow with the powder to get them used to it. They might snort a little bit. The first time you introduce the powder, I would recommend that you don't have them tied because they can feel claustrophobic. And so have someone hold them or ground tie them and have your hand on the rope. Gunner's used to the powder now, so it's not his favorite thing, but he puts up with it. So I've got him ground tied in this video so you can see me working the powder into the coat. I do it with my hands. I also use a curry comb to do that. And then I'm able to get him clean.
Here's some extra tips for drying your horse with powder in winter. You'll notice this says talc free, and this is a cornstarch base. And so any powder that you can find that is not full of fragrances and other unnecessary chemicals is a good choice if it's a cornstarch base. Stay away from talc if you can because of the recent warnings about it being carcinogenic. Once you've finished powdering the first side, leave the powder in while you work the opposite side. This gives the powder as much time as possible to do its work. When you're pouring the powder onto a vertical surface, you want to keep a hand cupped underneath where you're pouring and so that you can catch most of it and it doesn't land on the floor. It also helps to pour a little higher than you actually want the powder to land, and you can work it into the coat and down at the same time. So the area of the flank marked here with the snowflake is ticklish to the horse. So if you rub the area fairly firmly before you put the powder in, they should be a little less ticklish. Keep in mind this powder as it goes on is a little bit cool, so they're flinching for the temperature change and they're flinching for the sensitivity. When you're working on the flanks and the back legs, stay in tune with your horse. It's easy to get kicked if your horse is pushed over their emotional threshold, so stay in tune with where they are emotionally. At this point, you're probably thinking, why is the channel about natural horsemanship talking about using clippers on a horse and rubbing cornstarch into their coat? Natural horsemanship is a holistic approach to horsemanship, where we do compensate for ways that we have impacted our horse or taken their natural abilities away. Gunner is Arabian and thoroughbred. As you can see, he doesn't grow much of a winter coat, yet I've brought him up to northern Idaho, where we experience all 4 seasons. I've made the decision for him to cause him to work in the wintertime to the point where he would sweat. Gunner happens to sweat quite a bit and easily. As being a desert horse, this would be to his advantage, but in this environment, it's a disadvantage. This is why I'm compensating with extra activities that seem counterintuitive to a natural horsemanship program. My goal in this channel is to give you tools for your toolbox to help you with your horsemanship skills. Of course, there are coolers made of fleece or wool. There are blankets that wick moisture away from the horse, but this is another tool to put in your toolbox. Notice that I use a bit more pressure than I would typically to get powder out of the coat. I also add a little flick of the wrist at the end of each stroke, and you'll see that that takes the powder out really well. Start working each area with the stiff bristled brush first. Follow that by using the soft bristled brush. Be careful not to overwork one area with the stiff bristled brush. Brush burning is not only painful to your horse, but it also invites infections such as rain rot to take hold in your horse's skin. Leaving powder in the coat can also raise the risk for rain rot, especially along your horse's top line. The fungal condition of rain rot is very hard to get rid of. It's contagious and it can scar your horse. So it's worth mentioning here, it's important to get all of the powder out. Your soft brush will help you with these fine particles. In natural horsemanship, we're conscientious when we do something with our horse that impacts them or can impact them negatively. It then is our responsibility to ensure that that negative consequence doesn't happen to our horse. In this case, I worked my horse in the wintertime. That caused him to sweat. And so therefore, it's my responsibility to undo the result of what I've asked my horse to do for me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
To clean my curry comb and brush, I use the back of the brush and the curry comb. Here's my technique. Basically, you'll repeat this technique until you don't get any more dust clouds out of your tools. It's also a good idea not to share your brushes and grooming tools because that can spread disease. You can rinse these tools in a solution of 50% water to bleach occasionally.
At the end of the night, you want to put your jammies back on, put your horse up, and make sure that you clean up the barn. Don't forget to clean up the barn. Good night.
We have to acknowledge that we're in an unnatural environment, but our goal is to have our horses that we are stewards of fully benefit from their interaction in the human world. Conscientious management of domesticated horses can increase their quality of life and extend their lifespan.